In Dubai's royal palace, wealth glitters brighter than gold, but behind those gates, not everything shines, because in Sheikh Mohammed Al Maktoum's family, there's one prince whose story the world was never meant to hear, Sheikh Mansoor Al Maktoum. Handsome, powerful, the kind of man people call the perfect prince. But what if that perfection is only a mask? For years, whispers have followed him, rumors of a secret mother, a forbidden past, and a brother the palace refuses to acknowledge. Even inside Dubai, few dare to ask the question, who is Sheikh Mansoor really? Why is his origin shrouded in silence? And why, despite his wealth and status, does he still carry the shadow of a story the royal family once forgotten? What the world sees is a royal icon, but what lies beneath is a mystery filled with exile, heartbreak, and loyalty tested by blood. This is the story of the prince who has everything except the truth about where he came from. But to understand how deep this secret goes, we have to start where all royal stories begin, inside the palace of the ruler himself. Inside the royal palace of Dubai, everything seems flawless. Every corner gleams with gold, every garden is guarded by silence, and every story is perfectly polished before it reaches the public. But behind that perfection lies a family built on secrets, and Sheikh Mansoor was born right in the middle of it. His father, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, is one of the most powerful rulers in the world. Officially, he had 6 wives, unofficially, far more, and each of those women came with her own untold story, stories that almost never left the palace walls. After childbirth, many of these women vanished from public life completely. Some say they were quietly moved away, their existence erased from official records. The children stayed behind, raised not by their mothers, but under the supervision of the ruler's senior wife, Sheikha Hind. Inside the palace, bloodlines were preserved, but emotions were controlled. Even the number of Sheikh Mohammed's children has never been publicly confirmed. They grew up behind a wall of silence, following strict royal rules, each one destined to serve the image of the family, not their own hearts. And it was in this world of control and secrecy that one of the most mysterious princes of Dubai was born. From the moment Sheikh Mansoor entered the world, his name carried prestige, but his story carried confusion, because while every royal child's lineage is proudly displayed, Mansoor's origin has always been quietly rewritten, edited even, to fit a version of history that the palace could accept. He would grow up to wear the uniform of a soldier, the title of a prince, and the smile of a perfect royal. But behind that charm lies a question no one dares to ask. Who was the woman who gave birth to him, and why was her name erased from Dubai's royal record? The answer begins with a secret birth, and a woman who vanished from the palace forever. Officially, Sheikh Mansoor's mother is listed as Huria Ahmed Lamara, the Algerian wife of Sheikh Mohammed. Her name appears in royal records, interviews, and public documents. Everything looks clear on the surface, but the deeper you look, the stranger it gets, because in private circles, old letters and whispers tell a completely different story, one that names another woman entirely. Her name was Paulina Abi Rashed, and if these rumors are true, she was never supposed to exist in the royal story. According to unconfirmed accounts, Paulina was not a royal, not even a citizen of the UAE. She was Lebanese and a Christian. That alone, in the strict world of royal tradition, could have changed everything. It's said that back in the 1980s, Paulina and Sheikh Mohammed were deeply involved. Some sources describe her as warm, independent, and nothing like the quiet, obedient image expected of royal wives. She gave birth to 2 children, a daughter named Mariam and a son, Mansoor. But soon after, everything changed. When Paulina became pregnant again, things inside the palace reportedly turned dark. Conflicts, whispers, and growing pressure surrounded her. Before the birth of her 3rd child, she fled Dubai, carrying a baby in her womb, running from the very palace that once promised her safety. That child was named Suhail, and he was born far away from the golden power of the Al Maktoum family in Lebanon, where his mother had escaped to start over. Paulina's disappearance created a void that could never be spoken about again. Her name vanished from the family archives, her photos disappeared, and her story was replaced by another woman's identity. In the public eye, Huria became the mother of Mansoor, and from that moment on, the truth of his birth was sealed behind layers of silence. No one outside the palace dared to ask what really happened. No journalist could write her name again. And for Sheikh Mansoor himself, his real mother became nothing more than a ghost, erased from his royal life before he was even old enough to remember her. But Paulina never stopped remembering him. She never stopped fighting to see her children again. And that battle, the desperate letters, the unanswered pleas, would become one of the most painful chapters in this royal mystery. After escaping Dubai, Paulina disappeared from the royal story, but her story didn't end there. While her children grew up surrounded by marble halls and royal guards, she was fighting for survival far from the palace she once called home. In Lebanon, Paulina lived a life that was the complete opposite of everything she'd left behind. Gone were the servants, the luxury, and the protection of a royal name. Instead, she faced isolation, fear, and a constant ache for the two children she'd lost. People who claimed to have known her say she often wrote letters to Dubai, pleading to see her children even for a single day. Those letters were never answered. Some say they were never even delivered. Every attempt she made to reach out was quietly blocked. Every message was erased before it could reach the royal gate. It was as if she'd been erased not only from the family's life, but from history itself. For Paulina, her son Mansoor and daughter Mariam were somewhere far away, growing up in palaces, calling another woman mother. She never saw their faces again. And inside the palace, the children were told nothing. No mention of a woman named Paulina. No stories, no photographs, no trace of the truth. Even if Mansoor ever asked, the answers were already written for him, answers that protected the royal image, not his past. Still, Paulina never gave up. She raised her youngest son, Suhail, on her own, often telling him stories about his royal siblings, the brother and sister he would never meet. She told him about Dubai's glittering skyline, the palaces, the horses, the life she once lived, but always ended her stories the same way. None of that matters if you're not free. Those who knew her say she lived with quiet strength, never bitter, but never healed. Her love for her lost children never faded, and even decades later, she would sometimes look out over the Beirut skyline and whisper their names as if they could somehow hear her. But while she lived in exile, her youngest son grew up free, and that boy, Suhail, would one day become the shadow the palace tried to forget. While Mansoor and Mariam grew up surrounded by gold guards and silence, their younger brother Suhail lived a life that couldn't have been more different. He wasn't a prince, he wasn't even recognized by the royal family, but he was free, and in many ways, that made him richer than all of them. Born in Lebanon, Suhail was raised in the Christian faith by the mother who had risked everything to keep him. He went to normal schools, played football with local kids, and grew up without ever knowing that his bloodline traced back to one of the most powerful families in the world. Friends who knew him as a teenager said he never spoke about Dubai. He avoided questions about his father, but deep down, he must have known the truth, that somewhere out there was a brother who lived in palaces, while he and his mother were fighting just to get by. Rumors suggest that years later, a quiet meeting was arranged, one that almost no one knew about. According to whispers online, Suhail and Sheikh Mohammed met once privately, far from cameras and reporters. Those who claim to know about it say the meeting was cold, brief, and heavy with silence. The two looked alike, same eyes, same smile, yet their worlds couldn't have been more distant. After that, Suhail returned to Lebanon, and the royal family returned to pretending he didn't exist. No official acknowledgement, no title, no inheritance, nothing. But what Suhail did have was something the royal children never did. Choice. He could love who he wanted, say what he felt, and live where he pleased. He didn't need permission to speak or approval to dream. People close to him say that despite everything, he never envied his royal siblings. When asked once about his brother, he reportedly said, "Maybe he has everything, but he can't live freely." I wouldn't trade places with him, not even for a crown. That single sentence captures the heart of this story, a story where power costs freedom and freedom costs family. And while Suhail grew up as an ordinary man, his brother Mansoor grew into a soldier, a prince, and a symbol of Dubai's royal pride, all while carrying a truth he could never speak. Because in the palace, silence is not a choice, it's the rule. While Paulina raised Suhail in a small Beirut apartment, her son, Sheikh Mansoor, was being shaped into the perfect royal. From the outside, his life looked like a dream, the kind of life most people can't even imagine. But behind the royal titles and military medals, there was something missing that no amount of power could replace. Mansoor grew up in the care of the palace's senior wife, Sheikha Hind, who raised many of Sheikh Mohammed's children. His real mother's name was never mentioned. Even as a boy, Mansoor was expected to act like he didn't have questions, to accept the official story and bury everything else in silence. As he grew older, that silence became part of him. He learned to hide behind discipline, duty, and honor. He trained at the prestigious Royal Military Academy Sandhurst in England, the same place where many heirs and princes are molded into leaders. There, he excelled in physical training, strategy, and leadership. Later, he served in the UAE Armed Forces, reportedly fighting against rebel groups in Yemen. To the public, he became a symbol of strength and loyalty, a man who carried the image of Dubai's pride wherever he went. He took on official roles like chairman of the Dubai Sports Council and head of the Zayed Charity Foundation, often appearing at major events, handshakes and smiles perfectly rehearsed. But to those who've watched him closely, there's something different about Mansoor. A quiet distance in his eyes, a weight that doesn't match his age. He rarely speaks about his personal life, avoids interviews, and never mentions his mother. It's almost as if that part of him doesn't exist. Maybe that's what happens when your life begins as a secret. Maybe that's the cost of being born royal. You gain everything except the right to your own story. Some believe that's why Mansoor has never married. While other royals celebrated arranged unions and alliances, Mansoor kept his distance. There are whispers that he fears the same fate might repeat, that the woman he loves could one day be forced out, the same way his mother was. It's speculation, of course. But in a family where love often comes second to tradition, his caution says more than words ever could. Still, even with all his power and privilege, one thing about Sheikh Mansoor stands out. He's earned the respect of his people, and not because of his wealth, but because of moments that revealed his character. One night, during a massive hotel fire in Dubai, witnesses saw a man rushing into the chaos, helping firefighters, pulling people to safety, ignoring his own security team. That man was Sheikh Mansoor. That single moment showed the world that behind the silence, behind the secrets, beats the heart of a brave, loyal man. A man who doesn't just wear a crown, he carries the weight of one. But even bravery can't silence comparison, because in the shadow of every royal sun, there's always another who shines brighter. And for Mansoor, that shadow belongs to the one name Dubai can't stop talking about, his brother, Crown Prince Hamdan. In Dubai, two brothers grew up under the same roof, but they couldn't have been more different. One became the face of the royal family, a global icon whose every photo turns into a viral post. The other stayed in the background, powerful, disciplined, but silent. Crown Prince Hamdan bin Mohammed Al Maktoum, or Fazza as the world calls him, is a symbol of modern royalty. He's a poet, a horseman, an adventurer, and above all, the public favorite. Millions follow his social media pages where he shares glimpses of his life, verses of love, breathtaking photos, and moments of tenderness that make him seem almost human. He's become more than a prince. He's a brand, the Instagram prince, who captures hearts across the globe. But Sheikh Mansoor, he walks a different path, one built on silence and duty rather than charm and poetry. You won't see him writing verses about love or posing with exotic animals. You'll see him leading soldiers, inspecting facilities, or standing quietly beside his father during ceremonies. While Hamdan connects with the world, Mansoor connects with the system, the machinery that keeps Dubai's empire running smoothly. And yet people can't help but compare them. They're close in age, both tall, athletic, and strikingly handsome. But Hamdan is seen as the dream, romantic, expressive, and untouchable. Mansoor is seen as the enigma, loyal, serious, and maybe even a little lonely. For years, fans online have debated which brother represents the true prince. Some say Hamdan's charm is unmatched, that his openness makes him loved by millions. Others argue Mansoor's quiet strength and sense of duty reflect what a leader should be. But those who've looked deeper notice something unspoken. Hamdan had the freedom to express himself, to write, to travel, to love. Mansoor never did, and maybe that's the unspoken reason behind his distance. He grew up carrying a truth that couldn't be shared. While Hamdan's name became a brand, Mansoor's became a shadow, respected but untold. Still, behind that quiet exterior lies something few have seen, a heart that's seen loss, loyalty, and survival in a way no royal should ever have to experience. He isn't the poet prince, he's the soldier prince, the one who learned that in the palace silence can protect you, but it can also destroy you. Yet the story doesn't end there, because somewhere inside those guarded palace walls lies the one secret that still defines him, a truth that explains everything about who Sheikh Mansoor really is. Every royal family has secrets, but in Dubai's ruling dynasty, some secrets are so heavy they can't even be written down. And Sheikh Mansoor's birth is one of them. Officially, the story is simple. He's the proud son of Sheikh Mohammed and Huria Ahmed Lamara. That's what the public records say, that's what the palace repeats. But behind closed doors, people whisper a different version, a version that's been circulating quietly among insiders for decades. They say the truth about his mother, Paulina, was never erased by accident. It was erased on purpose. According to these rumors, the royal court couldn't allow the image of a Muslim ruler with a Christian partner to reach the public. It would have caused scandal, especially in the 1980s, when image meant everything and silence was the easiest form of control. So the story was rewritten, the name Paulina Abirached removed, replaced by another that fit the narrative. And from that moment on, the truth became a royal ghost. Even today, no official source will confirm or deny her existence. Ask about her in Dubai and people look away. Ask too many questions and you'll quickly learn that this topic isn't just sensitive, it's untouchable. There are even whispers that palace staff who knew her personally were quietly transferred abroad, their contracts ended, their voices silenced, no interviews, no memoirs, no trace. But what's most haunting is that the secret still affects Mansoor's life to this day. Some insiders claim that his unwritten origin is why his name was never pushed forward politically, why he remains a respected royal but never a contender for the crown. Because in a family that values bloodlines and alliances above all else, one small detail can rewrite your entire destiny. Think about that, being born into power but never truly belonging to it, living in palaces but never feeling like one of them. That's the quiet truth of Sheikh Mansoor's life. And perhaps that's why, despite his loyalty, his service, and his silence, he remains one of the most mysterious men in Dubai. He's respected in public, but behind the walls, there's always that question no one dares to speak aloud. Whose son is he really? For Mansoor, the answer might never come, Because in Dubai's royal history, some chapters aren't written, they're erased. But even erased stories have a way of coming back. And sometimes the truth that's buried deepest is the one that refuses to stay silent.